Imagine warning the world about propaganda, surveillance, and governments rewriting reality, then dying before your most famous book becomes weirdly normal. That was George Orwell. His real name was Eric Arthur Blair, because even his identity needed a plot twist. He became the guy everyone quotes when cameras, politicians, or tracking apps get creepy. Orwell was born in 1903 in Motihari, British India, which sounds like an empire having a nervous breakdown. His father worked in the colonial opium department. Actual job, history has no shame. Then little Eric was sent back to England with his mother and sister while his father stayed behind. Rich empires loved separating families and calling it proper upbringing. Nothing says childhood like being exported for education. He ended up at St. Cyprian's, a prep school where scholarship boys got class anxiety in high definition. Orwell was smart, but richer kids treated confidence like a family inheritance. He learned society had invisible price tags. Later he went to Eton, where future rulers learned Latin, manners, and how to sound calm while making terrible decisions. Orwell was bright, awkward, and deeply allergic to authority. Basically the human version of a raised eyebrow. After school, instead of university, he joined the Indian Imperial Police in Burma. So yes, the future enemy of oppression started as part of an empire's police force. History has a dark sense of humor. In Burma, Orwell saw colonialism up close. Not as a textbook paragraph, but as daily humiliation, fear, resentment, and power walking around in a uniform. He was supposed to be the boss, but he felt trapped too. One famous moment later became shooting an elephant. A crowd expected him to act like the powerful white officer, so he shot an elephant he did not want to shoot. Colonialism in one ugly cartoon. Nobody free, elephant included. Eventually he quit. Noble? Yes. Convenient? Absolutely not. Quitting empire does not come with dental insurance, so Orwell returned to Europe and became a writer, which is another way of choosing poverty with notebooks. And he did not study poverty from a comfortable chair. He lived it. He washed dishes in Paris, slept in cheap London lodging houses, and spent time with workers and tramps close to disappearing. He learned that poverty is not just having no money. Poverty is being tired in ways sleep cannot fix. It is waiting, walking, being ignored, and slowly becoming furniture in a room society refuses to enter. Those experiences became Down and Out in Paris and London. It was his first major book, and it came with a new name. George Orwell. Eric Blair put on plain English armor. The name mattered. Orwell wanted writing that sounded clean, direct, and honest. No fancy academic fog machine. No sentence so long it needs a rescue team. He wanted words that could punch through lies. Then the 1930s arrived, and Europe decided to catch fire in several languages. Fascism rose, communism argued with itself, capitalism face-planted into the Great Depression, and newspapers felt explosive. Orwell went north to investigate poverty among coal miners, and the result became The Road to Wigan Pier. He saw men crawling underground for terrible pay, while comfortable people discussed socialism from chairs that had never suffered. He was drawn to socialism because he hated class cruelty. But he also hated smugness, slogans, and political costumes. Orwell's superpower was joining a side and annoying that side with truth. In 1936, he married Eileen O'Shaughnessy, a sharp, witty woman who understood the absurd machine in his head. Then, because romance apparently needed artillery, he went to Spain to fight fascism in the Spanish Civil War. This was not tourist activism. This was mud, bullets, confusion, and ideological drama with a body count. Orwell joined a left-wing militia connected to the POUM and fought on the front line. He was tall, awkward, and easy to spot, which is not ideal when people are shooting. Then, a sniper shot him through the throat. Because history wanted neon symbolism, he survived. Barely. But the bullet was not even the weirdest part. His own side turned on itself, as Soviet-backed communists cracked down on rival leftists. Orwell watched revolution become paranoia with better posters. That changed him forever. He still hated fascism, but he also learned that any movement, even one using beautiful words, could become a machine that eats truth. Left, right, empire, revolution, it did not matter. If power could control language, it could control the cage. Orwell came out of Spain with a lifelong allergy to political lies, especially the ones told by people insisting they were lying for your own good. He wrote Homage to Catalonia about what he saw. It was brave, awkward, and not what many people wanted. They wanted a clean, heroic story. Orwell handed them a muddy report with betrayal stuck to its boots. Then World War II arrived, because history had not finished being dramatic. Orwell wanted to fight, but his health was too fragile. So he joined the Home Guard and later worked for the BBC against Nazi propaganda. Imagine the future author of 1984 sitting in a BBC office making wartime messaging and thinking, wait, this is useful, but also deeply creepy. He understood propaganda because he had seen every flavor of it. Empire used it, fascists used it, communists used it, democracies used it too, just with nicer fonts. Orwell's brain became a smoke alarm for political language, beeping whenever power tried to perfume a lie. In the middle of all this, Orwell started writing Animal Farm. On the surface, it was about farm animals overthrowing humans. Adorable, right? Then the pigs become dictators, and the horse enters the glue factory of political betrayal. Animal Farm was short, simple, and savage. It showed how revolutions can begin with justice and end with new bosses wearing the old boss's jacket. The message was not subtle. Some animals are more equal than others. The timing was a problem. During World War II, Stalin was Britain's ally against Hitler, so mocking Soviet dictatorship was awkward. Publishers got nervous. Orwell had written a masterpiece, and everyone treated it like a contagious object. Animal Farm finally came out in 1945 and made him famous. But fame arrived carrying flowers in one hand and a medical bill in the other. That same year, Eileen died suddenly during surgery. Now, Orwell was a famous writer, a single father to adopted son Richard, and a man whose lungs were trying to resign. He had tuberculosis, and tuberculosis did not care about deadlines. His body was collapsing as his career stood up. So naturally, he moved to the remote Scottish island of Jura. Because when your lungs are failing, the obvious plan is a cold island with rough weather. Orwell was brilliant. Practical was occasionally absent from the meeting. On Jura, he began writing 1984 while seriously ill. He typed, coughed, rewrote, collapsed, recovered a little, and kept going. Orwell built the most famous dystopia in modern literature. The book was not a random nightmare. It was made from everything he had lived through. Empire, class shame, poverty, propaganda, war, Stalinism, censorship, loneliness, and the feeling that truth could be murdered in public. 1984 gave the world Big Brother, thought crime, doublethink, Room 101, and a government that rewrites yesterday before breakfast. It was not just a warning about dictators. It was a warning about truth becoming property. The scariest part is not only the cameras. Cameras are creepy, sure. But the deeper horror is language. Newspeak makes rebellion harder by making certain thoughts impossible to say. Shrink the words. Shrink the mind. That is why Orwell cared about plain language. Bad language was not just ugly writing to him. It was political fog. It was the smoke machine dictators use before the trapdoor opens. The book came out in 1949. Orwell was already dying. He had written a nightmare so clear that people would spend the next century pointing at real life and saying, "Hey, this feels a little too Orwellian." Near the end, he was in and out of hospitals. He even married Sonia Brownell in 1949 while seriously ill. One last strange human chapter before the curtain dropped. A love story with hospital waiting room energy. He died on January 21st, 1950, at just 46 years old. 46. That is not old. That is an age where most people are still pretending they will start exercising next month. He never saw how huge 1984 became. He never saw politicians accuse each other of being Big Brother. He never saw security cameras, social media outrage, fake news, algorithmic feeds, or little surveillance rectangles in everyone's pockets. Which is probably good, because the man was already stressed enough. Orwell's genius was not that he predicted one exact future. He predicted a pattern. Power lies, language bends, people get tired, and then the lie becomes easier to accept than the truth. That is why his work survives. Not because he was cheerful. He absolutely was not. He was basically a haunted filing cabinet with lungs. But he cared about truth with the desperation of someone who had watched lies kill people. He saw empire, poverty, war, propaganda, betrayal, and illness, then made warnings. Orwell did not give us comfort, he gave us a warning label. So the next time someone tells you not to believe your own eyes, remember George Orwell. The man coughed his lungs out trying to say one thing clearly. When power controls the truth, freedom does not disappear with a dramatic explosion. It disappears one edited sentence at a time.